Now it's time for us to joyfully welcome Kim Obenoskey back to our pulpit. We're always so happy to have her come and join us. So welcome, Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Becky always does such a good job. She contacts me and she says, "What is your title?" And I give her a title and I give her like four or five words, and then everything she does is so complementary and parallel with what I'm doing. It's just great synchronicity. Thank you. So the original title of my talk today started out to be "Happiness is a Poor Life Goal." So my husband asked me earlier, he said, "Well, what are you talking about this month?" And I said, "Happiness is a poor life goal." And he looked at me like I had grown horns. I thought, okay, that one's not going to work. So Sarah contacted me, so I changed it. I didn't blink of an eye. So I ended up with, that's what we do. I ended up with finding meaning in life. Where all this came from is I was reading a book titled "A Wonderful Life: Insights of Finding a Meaningful Existence," authored by Frank Martello. Both of those topics come up, so you'll understand where both the titles came from in just a minute. As I say on all my talks, I'm a weaver of other people's words, and I'm not publishing, and I'm not taking credit, so I plagiarize a whole lot. And if you want to, just call it a book review. Happiness. Happiness has become one of the most celebrated life goals in modern Western culture. In 2000, there was only 50 books published with the title of Happiness, anything in it. 8 years later, there was over 4,000. So out of curiosity, I Googled the single word happiness. I got 1.9 billion results. I know, I counted them now. The World Happiness Report, which ranks 156 countries by how happy their citizens perceive themselves to be, was first released in 2012. Now it's a report that everyone can't wait to find out who it is. Everywhere you look, books, magazines, songs, articles, advertising and marketing campaigns, and even academic research is looking at happiness. In our culture, happiness is not only a right, it has become an individual responsibility. We want to be happy, we want others to think we're happy, and we do all that because our culture tells us, you need to be happy and you're responsible for that. But here's the thing. Happiness is just a feeling. Happiness, defined in psychology, is a state of emotional well-being that a person experiences either in a narrow sense when good things happen in a specific moment, or more broadly as a positive evaluation of one's life and accomplishment overall, your subjective well-being. Martello writes in A Wonderful Life that having happiness is a life goal, but it can be counterproductive and may diminish the happiness you already have. In the book, The Geography of Bliss, Eric Weiner interviewed a lot of people, but a particular woman who wanted to settle down. She took out a map and decided to calculate where she would be the happiest. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I have a son and a son-in-law who their whole life is around spreadsheets and flowcharts. So there are people that really do this. She wanted to live somewhere with a rich cultural scene, decent food options, and in proximity to nature, preferably mountains. She ended up choosing Asheville, North Carolina, a small community surrounded by the mountains and nature. But when Weiner asked her, does she consider this her home, she hesitated. Asheville checked most of the boxes. But you know, in her mind it wasn't optimal. She was still searching. She'd already lived there 3 years. She said, well, this is home for now. Weiner observes how that, in his words, the problem with hedonic floaters like this woman, and with many of us Americans, is our perpetual pursuit of happiness. Now, hedonic happiness is a philosophical belief that pursuing pleasurable experiences and avoiding painful ones will lead to happiness. Weiner goes on and says, hedonic floaters, like this woman, may be fairly happy now, but there's always tomorrow and the prospect of a happier place, a happier life. So they leave all options on the table. He says, that is, I think, a dangerous thing. We can't love a place or a person if we always have one foot out the door. Psychological research demonstrates that people who are most committed to maximizing their own pursuit of happiness are the ones who are least able to enjoy life. They're also the people that don't recognize that the most important relationships are their social relationships, and being so self-involved, they miss these opportunities. How many times have we heard parents respond to the question, what do you want for your children? With, I just want them to be happy. Then proceed to tell them, even their adult children, what they should do to be happy. Like any of us know what happiness is for anyone else. In 2018 and 2019, the World Happiness Report ranked, does anybody know? Finland as the world's happiest country. The Gallup World Poll asked people in 156 countries, and this was the question, how do they value their lives today on a 0 to 10 scale, with the worst possible life as a 0 and the best possible life as a 10? The Finns, on average, had the highest rating of any country in the world. However, there's more to happiness than life satisfaction. Some believe that happiness is about positive emotions, feeling good. But when you examine how much positive emotion people experience, the table flips. Suddenly, countries like Paraguay, Guatemala, Costa Rica, they're the happiest place on earth. Things get even more complicated when we look at the prevalence of depression in different countries. In some comparisons, the per capita prevalence of unipolar depressive disorder, countries like the US and Finland rate at the top. So, paradoxically, Finland can be ranked high on both life satisfaction and depression. What this boils down to is that there's no one thing called happiness. Life satisfaction is different from positive emotions, which is different from the absence of negative emotions and depression. Many of us have made the mistake, or are making the mistake, of equating happiness with financial success. Research shows that it's only on the lower end with financial success that makes people's lives significantly better. But after we're able to take care of our food, groceries, and housing and all that, your happiness does not gain that much more. And that's two different things when you're taken care of. American social psychologist Jonathan Haidt writes, as the level of wealth has doubled or tripled in the last 50 years in many industrialized nations, the levels of happiness and satisfaction with life that people report have not changed, and depression has actually become more common. We know that people adapt to their new baseline. Once you get something, whatever is a comfort of materialism, it becomes the norm. It doesn't bring you that satisfaction like it once did. It dissipates. Kind of with that in mind, they were writing something about a Hulu series coming up, and I like true crime. But it's a six-part series that's based on the defendants in cases. But the one I want to tell you about is the title was Lottery Winner Abraham Shakespeare's Disappearance Solved with Help from Web Sleuths. Abraham Shakespeare went from rags to riches after winning $30 million in 2006. The newfound fortune brought the 40-year-old from Lakeland out of poverty and allowed him to give back to his community. But he started to feel burdened by the number of people who came to him expecting a piece of the pie, says his friends. When Abraham first won the money, it wasn't only him, it was the community that felt like they had won the lottery. So when Shakespeare went missing 3 years later, it didn't take long for investigators to suspect that foul play was somehow involved. I don't think that money brought him or his friends and family any amount of happiness. So, if seeking happiness is a poor life goal, what can we hope for? Meaningfulness. Not the meaning of life, the meaning in life. When people ask about the meaning of life, they're typically looking for some kind of universal meaning, a meaning that just applies to the big picture. To find a satisfying meaning of life, people have traditionally turned to whatever religious traditions they subscribe to. Christians consult the Bible, Muslims the Quran, Hindus the Bhagavad Gita, and on. We're asking, what is our role in God's master plan? So when we focus on the meaning of life, particularly with religious overtures, we tend to separate from each other. We begin to have judgments and distinctions and trying to compare one another and trying to be right. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well." Unlike the meaning of life, which often turns into spiritual disagreements, the meaning in life is something we attend to every day through our thoughts and our actions. Whenever we make a choice, consciously or subconsciously, we tend to choose an option that in some way feels more valuable to us at that moment. Our tiny and then grand life choices or our answers to what makes our life feel more valuable and meaningful. Life is full of meaningful moments. We just have to pay attention. What we find meaningful and we organize our life around is deeply personal and highly subjective. It wholly depends on our experience moving through this world with our unique psychology, genetics, and our social background. What sparks meaning for one person may fall flat for someone else. Some people like to hike and sleep out under the stars, commune with nature. I like to go to a very nice hotel on the beach with outdoor dining, and I've been known to say, my idea of roughing it is when room service is late. So when we shift our attention to focus on the meaning in life, to those experiences that make our lives feel meaningful, we will soon realize that we have many relationships, experiences, and emotions in our life already that feel meaningful, regardless of any rational explanation as to why. If life is to be valuable, it's not because someone or something out there tells us what makes our life meaningful, but because we, ourselves, experience and acknowledge it as such. In the past, cultures have typically prescribed value systems to which everybody's expected to adhere. Usually it has religious underpinnings. Today, however, we're much freer to choose our own values. Barack Obama said, "The best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Don't wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make some good things happen, you will fill the world with hope. You will fill yourself with hope." How do we identify the values that give meaning in life? The author of the book I cited offers 4 paths to meaningful life. 1, invest in your relationships. 2, help others, help yourself. 3, become who you are. And 4, master your potential. There's whole chapters on each one of these, so I'm just going to do a very brief, just to give a little explanation to them. Path 1, invest in your relationships. And you'll see that I like quotes because I like to recognize that we've been talking about these same things, forever, since ancient times. And this quote is from Seneca, 65 CE. He said, "No one can live happily who has regard to himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. You must live for your neighbor if you would live for yourself." And in the Bible, Jesus said, "The second greatest commandment is, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." Does anybody know the first one?
Love the Lord.
Love thy neighbor. Exactly. Oh my God. Somebody there.
Yeah.
Often when life becomes meaningful, and when we become meaningful to other people, we begin to understand that our lives are meaningful because we're meaningful to those people. We can see our own value. In The Need to Belong, which is an influential review article published back in 1995, the authors made a claim that has since become broadly accepted and somewhat obvious, that being the thesis in psychology that a need to belong is a fundamental human motivation, meaning it comes from within. We seek it out. We don't think about it, it just comes out. Neurological research has demonstrated that thinking about oneself and thinking about a loved one activates a certain area in the brain. Thinking about strangers activates a different part of the brain. If we look at biology, neurology research, evolutionary research, social psychology, behavioral economics, and even primate research, we find evidence of our need to form close and caring relationship with others, and how in relationships, the boundaries between them and us fade away. Even in our very individualistic culture that we live in. We have moved away from the rootedness of living in close proximity to many of our immediate families, and my daughter's sitting over here, and traditional communities that sometimes those are quite oppressive to us. But what we have gained is the freedom and the ability to join communities based on our personal values and interests. I recently heard a professional friendship coach, that is a thing, tell her interviewer that it takes an investment approximately 50 hours to develop an acquaintance relationship, 90 hours for a good friend relationship, and 200 hours for a best friend relationship. I feel quite confident that in this group, you have acquaintances, some good friends, and possibly best friend relationship. And I know that because y'all spend a lot of time together. Y'all always have something going on. Wonderful. Path 2, help others, help yourself. Maya Angelou said, when we give cheerfully and accept gratefully, everyone's blessed. Anne Frank, in the Diary of Anne Frank, says, no one has ever become poor by giving. Meaning in life is about making yourself meaningful to other people, as previously noted, but there are at least 2 ways to accomplish that. Not only are we meaningful to those with whom we have close relationships, but we are also meaningful to those whose life we are able to impact in a positive way. This is a crucial second source of meaning in life. When you are able to contribute to the world, even in tiny ways, this tends to increase the sense of meaningful in your life. The English writer and social critic Charles Dickens said, "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burden of another." Often we talk about meaningfulness or the lack of meaningfulness. What we're really talking about is whether it made any kind of positive impact to other people or the world wider. I know this group here not only supports UU, but it also supports other organizations that give services to others in the community that are in need of those services. This month is Planned Parenthood, and does it change this year? It's going to change each month, and as a group, y'all decided, the ones y'all thought were worthy. But that's what it's about, sharing with others. Of course, we got to get a quote from Mother Teresa. "Love is not patronizing, and charity isn't about pity. It is about love. Charity and love are the same. With charity, you give love." Beyond helping others, research shows that helping others can have an impact on our health. A study of 846 older adults, and I'm not sure what that is. They didn't define it. They compared receiving social support and giving social support as predictors of mortality over a 5-year period. While we would think that receiving social support would be good for yourself, the results were not what was predicted. Those who provided instrumental support to friends, relatives, and neighbors, and those who provided emotional support to their spouses were more likely to be alive at the end of the study compared to the less pro-social participants. The results held true even when the researchers controlled for demographic factors, physical health, mental health, personality, and marital status. John Bunyan, the English Puritan preacher in the late 1600s, said, "You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay you." So this next part I'm going to read, I kind of borrowed the words from someone, and then I went in and was editing it, and I thought, oh, Kim, you just need to hold up a mirror on this one. Sometimes it just resonates. And then I was reading it again this morning, and I thought, my daughter Abigail really needs to listen to this. I'm her mother. I want her to be happy, and I'm going to tell her how to be happy. Love you, Abby. With all that said, a word of warning: too much of a good thing can be bad. If we solely concentrate on the well-being of others, always putting them first, we can run the risk of ignoring our own needs. Helping is good, but it should be strategic and self-selected. Helping whoever happens to ask because we don't dare say no is totally different than strategically choosing to help someone you really want to help. A number of experiments have shown that while autonomously motivated helping increases our sense of well-being, this does not hold true when one is coerced or forced to benefit others. And the advice is, help only those you want to help and who would benefit most from your assistance, not those who ask the loudest. Step 3, become who you are. One of the great things of being human is that we have freedom to engage in activities that are motivated from within us. We hold hands. We walk with each other. We create, we sing, we laugh. These are opportunities for you to be authentic in your relationship and with the world. Authenticity is about feeling that one's course of life is self-directed and self-chosen. I am giving a talk today. No one coerced me. I'm in front of you expressing myself authentically. I'm enjoying it. I'm happy. And it's meaningful to me. And I think you said this in the opening reading. Meaning is about connecting. The first two steps we talked about emphasize connecting with others, and it's equally important for us to connect to ourselves. The overall conclusion of research is that a sense of autonomy matters for both behavioral outcomes, because people that are motivated are more likely to reach their goals, and wellness outcomes, which is important. When we're more satisfied with our own life and we experience more positive feelings, we're going to be more vital and energized. In essence, our humanity is best realized when we're able to pursue self-selected activities and live authentically, in touch with who we really are and what we really value. Being able to do that makes our life meaningful. If you're not sure if your actions and activities are lining up with your values, if I'm invited back, my next talk, I don't want to be presumptuous here, is figuring out what matters most. 5 strategies that can help us think more clearly about our values and goals. And it was doing a book review. It came from the Wall Street Journal, but they're doing a book review that just came out, so I'll have to read it. Step 4, master your potential. When we engage in activity and feel a deep sense of mastery and interest, the activity itself becomes a kind of self-actualization. Now, what does self-actualization mean? The term gets thrown around a lot. Sometimes it's yogic consciousness. Sometimes it's a New Age belief. Sometimes it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've heard of that. The author of the book I cited says that self-actualization is about simultaneous satisfaction of 2 needs: autonomy and confidence. So if you find something that you can do well and you enjoy doing it, you get a certain personal fulfillment. I crochet. I get no fulfillment because I'm not good at all. I sit over there and watch this woman create the most beautiful things, and people have showed me things that she has made for them. Maybe I'm presumptuous, but I think you enjoy it, and you should know you're very good at it.
Thank you.
And when you do that, you feel good. And we all have something. And I know my daughter and I laugh all the time. We go, well, what are our gifts? What are our gifts? And we can tell each other, but we don't seem to know them ourselves. So if you're not clear, ask someone close to you. What do you see that I do well? In summation, and when I read this, I thought of Andy. The 20th century Zen philosopher Alan Watts compared life to music. He noted that in music, one does not make the end of the composition the point of the composition. In playing a song, the one who plays it fastest does not win. What is meaningful in music is not getting to the end, but what happens during the moments when the music is played. In his words, we thought of life by an analogy as a journey or a pilgrimage, which has a serious purpose at the end. The thing was to get to the end, success, or whatever it might be, maybe heaven after you're dead, but we missed the point along the whole way. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing and dance while the music was being played. If you're in this room today, then the music is still playing for you. Be happy, go out and dance. Your life is meaningful. Namaste.